This video will be on the draft withdrawal agreement. It covers citizens' rights, it covers Britain leaving the EU's atomic energy community. Britain will be subject to the European Court of Justice. Britain will have to pay a leaving bill of £39 billion. There will be a backstop in Ireland. The agreement covers military bases in Cyprus. The agreement covers the border between Gibraltar and Andalusia. Britain will be subject to EU treaties. On citizens' rights, the agreement covers working in Britain, working in EU nations, entering Britain, entering EU nations, leaving Britain or leaving EU nations, residing in Britain, residing in EU nations, and it has provisions for residency documentation and chain migration. However, there are restrictions on rights of residency and right of entry. The agreement covers workers' rights, including self-employed workers' rights, and there is provision for workers' documentation. There will be documentation of professional qualifications. There will be social security coordination between Britain and the EU, and citizens' rights apply to Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland, as well as EU nations and Britain. There will be administrative coordination between Britain and the EU, and on citizens' rights there will be lifelong protections, and the agreement covers trade of goods between the EU and Britain and vice versa, and proof of market origin of said goods. The agreement covers the trade of medical produce, and the agreement covers the status of goods traded as well as customs procedures. There will be entry declarations on goods traded. There will be departure declarations on goods traded. There will be temporary storage customs procedures. However, there will be access to databases and information networks. The agreement also covers value-added tax and excise duties and excise good movements. There will be protected intellectual property in Britain. That is in relation to copyright law. There will be policing and judicial cooperation between Britain and the EU. There will be judicial cooperation on civil and commercial matters, as well as criminal matters, and such subjects would include contract law, information security, and there will also be public procurement provisions, and the judicial administrative procedure will be subject to the European Court of Justice, and the European Court of Justice will have a right to intervention. There will be restrictions on state aid. Now, page 156 and page 157 contain Article 93 of this withdrawal agreement, and it is not pretty. That is effectively a ban on nationalisation and state intervention in the markets to support national industry, which is quite frankly disgraceful and worth rejecting the deal on this subject alone. There will be anti-fraud procedures and cooperation in the recovery of taxes and duties. The stated implementation period end date is the 31st of December 2020. However, in the agreement, EU law supersedes British law during the implementation period, and there is a prohibition on Britain acting against European Union interests. However, the EU will consult Britain on fishing in British waters. That sounds fair enough, but the caveat is, in the agreement there is protection of European Union fishing vessels, which include French boats as well as the boats of other EU nations. European Court of Justice supervises and enforces implementation. While the stated end date for the implementation period was the 31st of December 2020, implementation can be extended beyond December 2020 if a decision on the subject is made before July 2020, which means Brexit can be delayed. Euros will be used in transactions between Britain and European Union nations. Britain will be contributing to the EU budget until 2020 at the very earliest. Britain will be implementing European Union policy programs until 2020, and European Union law could apply after 2020 due to this, even if implementation isn't extended. The European Union can still levy fines on Britain. Britain will still be paying for European Union bailout of banks. Britain will be reimbursed for the European Investment Fund. Britain will be reimbursed for the European Central Bank and European Investment Bank. Britain will continue to contribute to the European Development Fund, and Britain will assist in facilitating migrants in Turkey. Britain will continue to contribute to the European Defence Agency, and Britain will still be subject to the European Court of Justice after implementation. The European Commission can contribute to pending legal cases in Britain. The International Court of Arbitration will settle disputes between Britain and the European Union. An arbitration panel will also be set up. The agreement makes clear that the common travel area between Britain and Ireland will stay. The 6 counties will be in the customs union. There will be state aid restrictions on 6 county farms, which is not good news for people like myself who depends on said farmers to eat. 6 county farmers will be subject to Annex 2 of the World Trade Organization Agreement on Agriculture. The agreement states that there will be no environmental deregulation. There will be no deregulation on workers' rights. However, there is a ban on controlling production. There is a ban on controlling markets. There is also a ban on price fixing, which is a good thing, as prices can be fixed for the monopoly and the oligarchic interests in markets against the consumers and ultimately the working class people. However, there is a ban on subsidizing industry, which goes along with their state aid restrictions on nationalisation and intervening to support industry. There will be no restrictions on arms, ammunition and nuclear munitions trade for foreign wars, which is part of a common security and defence policy between Britain and the EU. However, there is restrictions on what they call the illicit arms trade, which is basically small arms which could be used for individuals' self-defense and protection. Labour, the European Research Group and the Democratic Unionist Party are all against the draft withdrawal agreement. That means it will not pass the House of Commons, even if Theresa May's government attempt a second vote on the matter. And it looks likely that there will be a no-deal Brexit.